time to go to bed, all right? I checked. There's no one here. We're safe.
Directed and co-written by Brendan Rudnicki, we are talking Horror in the Forest. And this is a 2023 found footage movie. Now it focuses on a trio of kind of vloggers, paranormal investigators, and they decide to go to this area where there have been a rash of disappearances, particularly children. And there is some video footage that shows a kind of attack that someone's captured before. So they want to go check it out, and when they do, they meet this guy who they're warned off because he was the father of one of the missing girls, and he's said to be a little bit kind of off kilter, you might say. And nonetheless, they get him to take them deep into the woods to meet this witch, which is apparently this local legend where many people believe is responsible for these missing children. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So let's discuss. So clearly influenced by the Blair Witch, both in the found footage genre and also a witch in the woods. I mean, it really is kind of like a, you know, a modern version in some ways. We even have a kind of the little wooden totems hanging from the trees in a scene in this movie, a little kind of halfway through. So it's clearly very, very influenced by that film. Is it as groundbreaking? Nowhere near. But let's talk about what does work. There is a few decent jump scares in this movie. Some of them are kind of fake outs. But nonetheless, there's a couple of fairly sort of decent ones that will probably kind of like, you know, make you wince a couple of times. Despite this being a found footage movie, this has a relatively high production value in regards to its filming. Now, this is a double-edged sword. Now, they do try to explain it and say that this movie has been touched up after it was found, and, you know, musical scores added and things like this to kind of give it more of a almost traditional film feel to it. So, on the plus side of that, obviously, that sometimes doesn't even look like a found footage movie. It looks, in some sequences, more like a movie, you know, filmed in the traditional style. Only now and then you'll notice it where someone kind of looks at the camera, or the camera will move or something like that. But it does make it a film which is maybe more accessible to those who find the found footage genre not to their taste, because it kind of feels like a lesser version of it to a degree, which doesn't have quite as much like the shaky cam, the filming of the like floor of the woods and stuff like that. And again, it's a double-edged sword, which we'll come on to. But yeah, so it's an easier movie to digest if you're not a huge fan of the kind of the found footage genre. I think the acting is fine. Everyone here, I think, does a decent enough job. I actually kind of quite like some of the characters. I mean, there's as normal here, there's kind of relationship drama, but I actually kind of quite like the way it played out because it's a little understated, and some of the kind of the potential kind of love triangle or kind of relationship drama that you think you might have has a little bit of cold water put on it, and I actually kind of quite liked it, to be honest. It didn't necessarily go on that typical kind of inflated drama route, to be honest. Do you see much in this movie? Not really. We get a little bit towards the end, and it's, you know, it's relatively kind of spooky at times, these kind of dark woods and everything. You know, it has a certain amount of eeriness to it, and I think the idea that there's this child snatching witch is a kind of like a spooky one, and all the kind of like the, you know, the locals are all kind of scared of it if they believe it and stuff like that. So what doesn't work? Let's just go back to that kind of that point where I said the movie has a bit more of a production feel to it. As I say, maybe better for those who are not a big fan of found footage movies, but those, on the other hand, who like the grittier, raw feeling that a found footage might get, this is where, unfortunately, this saps away. because the higher production value makes it feel less like a found footage movie exactly, and more of a traditionally filmed one, and therefore it loses some of the edge that it might otherwise had. However, the biggest issue for me is this movie is just so generic in regard to its plot, its characters, even any of its twists. Not that the movie has a lot of twists, but there's kind of maybe one where, you know, someone's motivations will be revealed. And it's so obvious. I mean, I kind of like could see where this movie was going, like, so early on. And I'm surprised that the characters are written where they didn't, because it sounds pretty obvious when you can accept a certain character's reality, I suppose. I mean, it's just like, surely you would kind of see this coming. It's so generic in its kind of storytelling. It doesn't really offer any new ideas here. It is just a very, very simple found footage movie that is just really skims off the kind of the cream of what's come before it. And as I say, in particular, the Blair Witch Project, which I feel this movie is definitely its main inspiration. But it offers nothing new. It doesn't really take the story in any new ideas. It doesn't really have any big revelations or surprises or anything like that than any other kind of like middle of the road found footage movie. I wouldn't necessarily say this is a terrible movie in any particular way. It's just so middle of the road, so vanilla. You know, it's going to be immediately forgotten. And as I say, I do think some of the characters are written to be what the script wants, rather than I think a realistic person might act in a certain way. The acting, I think, is fine, but I think the way these characters are written, you know, this is someone's idea of a story, and when it translates to moving pictures, I don't think it really looks like what real people would, or how real people would actually act. You see precious little, and what you do see is nothing particularly kind of like shocking or scary imagery or anything like that. It has no real massive payoff, to be honest with you. As such, if you are an ardent found footage movie fan, then you may want to check it out. It's certainly not a ghastly movie in any way, but I really don't think it adds anything to the genre at all that you haven't kind of seen before. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. It's a below average movie because it's so just flavourless ultimately, and as I said, there's a couple of script issues here which I have some umbrage with, but ultimately, you know, it's more of the same. 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.